Hi, so in this video we're going to look at setting up the UVs so that we can texture this thing. I've removed the duplicates, so this wing is repeated, it's just flipped onto the other side, so we'll do the UVs for this and we'll just duplicate the geometry, same with the gun. This will save us a bit of UV space, and at this sort of size I don't think it's going to matter too much that it looks the same. So what we need to do is just select all of this geometry and export it. Selected, FBX is fine, and normally we would use the unwrap UVW in 3ds Max, but I thought to spice it up a bit by using something else, plus the thing I'm going to use is a lot better, so we're going to use 3D Coat. Okay, so this is 3D Coat. It's a great little program, does lots of really cool stuff, kind of in line with ZBrush. There's some, you can sculpt in it, you can do retopology, you can paint in it like it's a 3D version of Photoshop. It does PBR as well, it's pretty cool, but it's also pretty neat for doing UV mapping because it's really straightforward and simple the way it works. So if we go to UV map mesh and go and find our Spaceship export, I give you this warning because we haven't actually set any UVs up for it, so they're all over the place. So it'll try an auto map as it comes in. The settings are fine, we're not going to use most of those, so it's just going to try and auto map it. So what you get is this, which is a bit crazy looking, but basically these are all the different UV islands it has selected for us, which is not necessarily what we want. Well, it's definitely not what we want. If you get lost in this program, basically we're in what's called a room, so we're in the UV room, so there are different rooms that do different things. We're in the UV room, which basically means it's showing this coloured checkerboard over it, but this doesn't actually, this doesn't stay with it. It's not relevant. It's really just a visual aid to tell us where the different UV islands currently are. As you can see in this view, this may look slightly different depending on how you've got things set up. I tend to have this docked as a palette, or not docked as a palette, just floating, so I can manipulate it. So you can, with the middle mouse wheel, you can move it round. Right mouse button you can zoom in and out. Left mouse button you can select UV islands, and they correspond to things you're selecting there. However, if you hover over any object in the scene, it will give you a UV preview of that object without it being packed, which is a bit odd, but you kind of get used to it. Because I've got this selected, like this one here, it gives you this view here. It shows you that's the one you've got selected. If you want to unselect everything, you just need to go down to selected here, go to clear, and then it'll unselect it. The two selection menus you've got here, you've got surface material, so you can select by material, so they're all one material, they're all another material. The only reason it's got two materials on it is because of the way I've worked on it in Max, so that's largely irrelevant. Or you can separate by object, which is really useful, so we can just work on these one object at a time. So the process you go through is really straightforward, in the sense that you basically start to create cuts or seams where you want it to unwrap, and whatever you give it, it tries to unwrap it as best it can. So where you've got lots of different ways to project and do all these different things that you have in Max, you've got lots of flexibility, but ultimately it takes a while. This more or less just unwraps everything flat as best it can as it goes along, which means that it's not you maybe don't have quite as much control as you're doing something in Max. And when we've done this, I would take it back to Max to finish it off. But it's really, really quick. So what it does give you is something that is generally useful, and it's a good starting point. So if we start with something simple, just to show you how it works. So if we take the wing, if I quickly just go to clear seams, I think this will do this for the whole object. You can see that this is now one object, that it's all connected together, that it's projecting onto, and it's just projecting through, and that's not going to work for us. We have to unwrap it. Then all we need to do is, in this modes area, we have to start to select the edges that we want to basically make to be the outside seams of the UVs. So if we go to mark seams and we click on an edge, left click on an edge, you see this green line turns up. That basically means we've made a cut along there. And if we keep going, we will start to separate out, and you can see it's starting to manipulate the unwrap. If you want to speed the process up a bit, you can either use edge loops, which will try and find the nearest loop, and if you click on it, it will, you can see it's nearly unwrapped the whole thing. Or you can use UV path. So say we're under here and we start here and we go over to here, it tries to find the nearest path, you hit enter to complete it, and it'll make a cut that way. Or if you go back to mark seams, if you hold shift down when you're using mark seams, it will do the edge loop command as well, which is probably the best way to work, because then you can go around, and if you can't get an edge loop out of it, you just do it the old fashioned way. But there we go. So that's so the top part's unwrapped nice and flat, bottom part's unwrapped nice and flat. This part not quite yet, so we just need to make a few more cuts in it. So I'm going to cut it there, and I'm going to cut it there. We'll cut it there. There you go. So that's now all split out, and it was as easy as that. So pick something else. This one. Hold shift down. I'm on mark seams. Hold shift down. There we go. Bosh. Done. 1, 2, 3. Done. So something like this is a little bit trickier. And then we want to split the ends out. Now here's an interesting part. So I want to split out this part at the back, but I don't want to split it where these edges have continued. If you want to reconnect parts, if you hold control down and click on the edge you want to not mark as a seam, it will return it back to how it was. So I'm just going to, there we go. Shape like that, I'm going to basically put a split in it there and there. So let's look to see that anyway. That'll open that out nicely. So that's that part done. I just need to do the front now. So Start by splitting down the middle. Bottom first. Control down. So that should be everything unwrapped. So once it's unwrapped, I can go to unwrap to put it all in 0 to 1. Fit all the islands together. Which is done. And then I can pack them. It's done an alright job. The main issue we've got here is, you can see on this one, is this, it's showing these red parts and these blue parts, which is showing a bit of stretching. So we can try and alleviate that by in relax. I'll try on the cloth relax. Which just make some of the stretching less visible. And we've got a couple of bits that seem like they're going to need fixing, but we can do that back in Max. This area here, I think, looks like it would benefit from going back in and separating out that part. Seems to be having problems. Close that for now. Okay, so once that's done, the last thing you need to do to get it back to max is where it's showing up orange here, you have to apply the UV set. So that basically takes the UVs we've been working on, applies them back onto the model. So if we hit that, says operation can't be undone. That's fine. And now we can go to export UV. Models come back in, and if we just quickly attach all this stuff together so we can see it in one modifier. Yes, that's fine. Yes. Then we can unwrap UVW on it. Put it in the UV editor. You can see we've got our UVs have come through. So now any issues we've got, and if we want to kind of move a few things around, not that we could do that in 3D Coat anyway, but we want to set this up for it to go out to Painter, so we can do the rest of it in here. So that's what we'll do next.